my name is Woody. This is Change in the House of Pods, a podcast about Deftones. My guest today is an LA legend. He's been a radio DJ and rock show DJ. He's a producer, music connoisseur, and tastemaker. And currently, he's a host on Be Real TV. The gracious and generous Christopher Rivas, C-, is my guest in this episode. And this conversation is a ton of fun, and it's packed with interesting tidbits about Deftones. From getting to know Chino while on the road with Korn in the late 90s, to the Eros recordings he's heard. This is one of those you're going to want to listen to twice. This is C- on Change in the House of Pods.
I remember it was right before I went on tour with Korn for the Family Values, because I had started hanging out. I started hanging out with those guys for the Follow the Leader sessions. And Chino was at Chino, I think Abe too, were at the Korn, the after school special, the Korn TV thing that they did, where it was new at the time, you know, it was like, oh my God, like they're broadcasting live on the internet or for anyone to see. And they would be, you know, just kind of hanging out at NRG. And that's where I first knew of, like, oh, Deftones. Okay, cool. And then I had a neighbor where I had an apartment in Burbank, and he was like, oh my God, you're with Korn? Dude, Deftones fucking rule too. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll check him out. Like, it was, you know, so that's probably my first time I remember hearing about Deftones.
So Follow the Leader era.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was 99?
98.
98? Word?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so you jumped in and just started listening to their music, or well, actually, you got to. So what happened next?
Well, so yeah, so I mean, when I coming as a hip hop DJ into this, you know, I was, you know, the way that I got hooked into this, to the whole thing, and I have to, you know, give props to Fieldy and Jonathan from Korn, because when, you know, I was doing radio out here at Power 106, but at the time for my the reason I was at the Follow the Leaders studio sessions is because I had a fellow coworker dislocate my thumb. So like, he took my thumb and tried to pull it out and put it back in, because he thought he was some fucking like master fucking martial artist dude. But instead, he pulled my thumb out and tried to put it back in, but then my thumb just dangled lifelessly. And so as a DJ, I was like, you motherfucker. And I had to take off. Thank God it happened at work, because I was on workers' comp and all that shit. So I had 3 months of not doing shit. I couldn't practice DJing. I couldn't do, it was really hard. It was my writing hand. So it was like, you know, wow. I couldn't do any of it. So,
what an asshole, by the way. Can I just throw that in there? Like, yeah, what a dick move. What are you like?
Absolutely. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. So I was at home just smoking weed and just kind of just watching TV, and just like I could feel the beginnings of a depression happening, right? So Fieldy called me, was like, what are you doing? And I was like, dude, I'm just fucking sitting here smoking weed. I told him about my hand, and he goes, well, dude, you could just do that over at the studio. Just come on over at NRG in North Hollywood. I was in Burbank at the time. So he was like, yeah, just come over. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went over to that and then started hanging out with those guys. And then that's how, you know, I was starting to hear about the new era of rock bands. And I found it really intriguing, because it was like hip hop influence. There's hip hop influence in both Korn and Deftones, just the swing of the beat. And Abe is one of the best drummers of all time. So I really kind of started getting familiar with them then. And it wasn't until that Family Values tour that, you know, Fieldy played me Around the Fur, and he was like, dude, this is one of the best albums of all time. You can do, like, it matches any mood. If you're hooking up with a girl, if you're out fucking driving, like, this album is it's one of my favorites. So I was like, all right. So on the road, I bought it. and I was like, oh shit. So yeah, Korn and Deftones were my first foray into um like heavy music. And growing up as a kid, like I was into like, like old school metal, like Fastway and Crocus and all that as kids trading cassette tapes, but like Metallica, and Slayer, which was like, oh my god, devil worship music. But yeah, that was my first my foray into that. And then I actually didn't see the Tones live till 2000.
Okay,
But
lot to sort of digest there, if I may.
yeah.
Because that was first of all, I love the idea that these conversations were happening about the new wave by
Yeah.
the guys who were spearheading the new wave. Like I just love imagining that room where you're discussing the takeover that they're like at the front of, that Korn and Deftones are really spearheading, and them having this. What is that conversation like? Like, do you remember any of that?
Well, I just remember like Fieldy and Jonathan and Head and Monkey and David, like everyone was really into hip hop. So like everything I was playing on the radio, they were into it. Like, I was playing, Power 106 at the time was like the number one hip hop station, well, the number one station in LA. And we were breaking all the hip hop. We broke the Snoop and Dre's, we broke, the Outcasts, we broke, anything that was like hip hop, we broke, so it was crazy to hear that like these guys were into hip hop, but you could hear it. It was like, Fieldy would do the little scratching thing with his bass sometimes. He did it on Got the Life, and when they had Dub C come in for the video Get Your Boogie On, so it was like it was hip hop. That's all we talked about um when we got together, because they wanted to talk about anything other than their own shit. Um, and so we were just like, so bringing it back to the follow the leader thing. So I was there after that time. I watched him make that record, and I watched everything. I watched Cube come in. I watched fucking Cheech come in and do Earache My Eye Live. I smoked. That's the first time I smoked a joint with him. And then at the end of it, Fieldy was like, hey man, would you be into coming on tour with us and keeping the party going, like in between the acts? And I was like, for real? He was like, yeah. So I was like, okay. I was like, who's the acts? He goes, oh, it's gonna be a group named Orgy, and then a group Limp Bizkit, who I had met at the Life is Peachy album tour. There was that tour circuit when Korn was opening for Metallica. So he's like, it's Orgy, Limp Bizkit, Ice Cube, Rammstein, and us. And I was like, I know Cube, I know Limp Bizkit, I don't know the others. And
Bro,
they were like,
that's so rad. That's so dope. Like just knowing how innocent you were at that time is just so
oh
amazing.
man.
But also,
So,
if I may, I have to acknowledge, and it's really special to me knowing like A, you're a radio guy, B,
mhm.
your Power 106, like there were a handful of stations that were shouted out on To Live and Die in LA. Like West Coast hip hop is literally where like that's what I came from as a listener
Hell yeah.
into Deftones.
Oh
For
shit. Okay.
the same reasons that you were saying. It's like, oh, it's got the hip hop thing and whatever. So many other people that I speak to have more of the rock leaning. So like, just I feel like I have to express that, like knowing that background is that framework is where you're entering this conversation is just like it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
literally my favorite time in music. Period. Like in history. Like wild,
It
wild.
was a good one.
And then
Yeah.
you're all of a sudden in the middle of DJing. Like, who was doing that either? Like, was that a thing where dudes were bringing DJs to like you said, keep the party going
I
between
don't
acts?
I don't recall, and I think I may have been on the forefront of that because it didn't happen till later. Like, later on, after my initial run with Korn, I went out with I did the Queens. I went and opened for Queens of the Stone Age on the Def Club run, the only run that Grohl drummed on, that he was drumming on. So it was OG Queens of the Stone Age with Grohl, and and that's when Troy Van Leeuwen came on board. So it was like it was just such a trip just to like you know after that, and then after the Queens, I went with the Foo Fighters, and I was there with them for like 13 years. Um, and so I remember like we ran into the Coldplay dudes, and I was like, "Hey, if you guys ever need a DJ, let me know." They're like, "Oh, we got we got our own DJ." I was like, "Oh shit, okay. Well, I guess I'm not the only one doing this." You know what I mean? Like,
Word. Word.
cool. I was like, "All right, it's rad." So yeah, I don't know. I think I was. I mean,
And the first family values. Like,
oh man, yeah,
at this point in history when we're trying to like re experience that time with Sick New World and all of that, like
yeah,
that is probably like the one. Like I know a lot of people really I certainly do talk about Ozfest plenty because of how like massive those tours were, but those were rock shows.
yeah.
Like Family Values was everything. It was hip
Oh
hop,
man,
it was rock, it was metal, it was what was new, it was what was like NEW. It was, and you
yeah,
were you were literally every night on that thing.
yeah,
Crazy.
man. And I was
And coming from hip hop again is
yeah.
really, really, really like so you're a bit of a unicorn in a sense. Like I don't know who
Thank
else
you.
was doing that.
Yeah, there and it was on that tour that I kind of was like, you know what? Like, I bet you I can mix some of this shit together. You know what I
Word,
mean? Because no one was really doing like a whole thing of like mixing genres like that. It was
word.
only few cats were doing, open format back then because I was listening to the episode you did with Sean, the last one where he talked about Saturday Night Wrist and Arrows and Diamond Eyes, that like it was so true that like coming up from our back, from our generation, you couldn't like multi generations or multi genres of music. You were like, if you were a hip hop dude, oh, you stuck with the hip hop dudes. If you were a rock dude, you stuck with the rock dudes. If you were goth, you stuck with the goth. If you were like electronic, house, you were with that. And it's like, and you could like under the table. Like I remember when Nirvana Neverminds came out, like I was like really kind of like, huh, what is that? I saw it on MTV and this shit was going on crazy. And so a friend of mine had a CD and I was like, hey, let me borrow that CD. But he wasn't like deep into the music as like a lot of us were. So he lent it to me and I dubbed it, and I went and got the CD and made a cassette of it. And I made this like crazy, like label that's, so if any of my friends saw it, they'd be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing listening to this Nirvana shit? And I'd be like, nothing. You know what I mean? I'm just the drums, dude. I'm gonna sample them. But it was, um, so it was like you really couldn't listen to like these these other genres together. So I think Family Values was the first like melding of that. You know what I mean? Where it just kind of came together, and everyone was like, I can like more than one thing.
Yeah.
And that's what really kind of, I don't know, man. Like I was doing like if I remember correctly, I was doing like different sets before each group. Like I think before Orgy, I kind of just was everywhere, but hip hop still based. And then before Biscuit, I played hip hop. And then before Cube, I played West Coast hip hop. And then before Rammstein went on, did more electronic, like Crystal Method and like shit like that. That was kind of coming up. That was coming into its own at the time. And then before, I remember before I played, there was a couple times on the Korn tour where I was like, fuck it, I'll play some Rage or I'll play some. Uh, and so they started like mosh pits, and then Fieldy came and he's like, hey, dude, easy on the fucking Rage, dude. We're trying to save the energy for our fans. And I was like, all right, yeah, I get it. Because I started seeing like fucking
Yeah.
pits swell up, and I was like, oh, all right. And he's like, yeah, dude, play some Portishead or some shit, you know? And I was like, all right, hell yeah. So I just started playing like hard, like trip hop shit before they went on to
Sick.
kind of like, so that when they came on, the elevated, the fucking guitars and drums and everything would just be like, it was like a thing. So that was that was my MO, I think, for that tour. Just it was really cool to just finally, it was like this meeting of the minds of all these cool things, and I was stoked to be on it, man.
And that was also your introduction to Deftones, which
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of fans look back at that time and go like, damn, I just wish Deftones would have been on that bill. That would have been the perfect bill. But they did eventually join the Family Values tour further
yeah,
down the line. But when did you start like getting to know them again, or did you like bump into them again? How did the relationship start to evolve?
yeah. The relationship. Okay, so I first met Chino. With I was on. So the way that me being with Korn for those 4 years, it happened like after I did the Family Values and I went home. They had another leg to run. So a week later, um, Jonathan calls me up. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just chilling." He goes, "Hey, dude, we miss you. You want to come back on the road?" I was like,
That
"For real?"
rules. That's so
And I was
rad.
like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, when can you come out?" I was like, fuck, let me get someone to cover my shifts. And shit, I don't know, like a few days. He's like, "All right, cool. We're gonna have a plane ticket for you. Meet us in Miami, and then you'll finish the rest of the leg with us." So I was like, "All right, cool." So I finished that, and then the next tour we went out on was "The Rock Is Dead," which is Korn and Rob Zombie, and that's how I met Chino. He came out like we were doing a run from north to south, so it was, I think it was Seattle, Portland, Sacto, LA, San Diego, maybe not San Diego, but then Phoenix. So so Chino came out to the Sacto show. It was either Sacto or San Francisco, one of the two. And so and I was riding on Jonathan's bus, and Jonathan comes in and goes, "Hey, the homie Chino's gonna come and he's gonna ride with us for a few shows." I was like, "Cool." And so that's how I met Chino, because he came out and they were doing Wicked together. They were doing, I think they even at a couple of one of those things that they added Engine Number Nine. Korn was playing Engine Number Nine with Chino singing, but I remember them doing Wicked, and that was like cool. So then just hanging out with Chino, we just started talking music, and he was like, "Oh shit," and then so that's how I first met Chino. And dude, he's the one. And I know this artist comes up a lot. I was listening to Sean, and I listened to a bit of Sick Matt Steve's. But yeah, dude, he was really heavy into Uncle Science Fiction, which is DJ Shadow and James Lavelle. So um, I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And he was like, "Oh, Shadow." I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I would just get stoned and just chill in the back and listen. That's when I got turned on to DJ Shadow way more before than like ever like, and I had gotten like introducing promos and all this stuff, but it was listening to Uncle Science Fiction with Chino that really made me start tripping on Shadow. And so that's how we started, and then that kind of started like our lifelong, like, "Hey, have you heard this? Have you heard this? Have you heard this?" Like we just go back and forth of just playing each other the most wildest, coolest shit we could find.
That's so hard. I love that. What do you do when you look for music? What is your, I'm sure it's probably evolved over the years, gone from like, you know what I mean, like crate digging and whatnot. Do you still
Right.
crate dig or
Oh
are you
yeah.
just, yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
I suppose it's probably, you have to, right?
It's lifelong, dude. I'm a
Yeah.
lifer when it comes to this shit. I'm the type of guy that I will spend every dollar I have in my wallet and still ask, if you're with me, I'll ask you for 20 to buy these other ones. Like, because it's just,
And if I
I,
am, I got you.
oh, good looking. I appreciate that, Woody. So it's, yeah, I love going out and finding music, and like, to me it has to be something, I don't know, it could be the drums, it could be the chords, it could be everything together at once, and I'll hear it Uh, and I'll be like, oh shit! Like I remember in 2010, like I was in Echo Park, and my friends had opened up a record store like right there, a record store slash, uh, they had gear and shirts and shit. It was streetwear and all that. And there was another record store about four, maybe four spots down. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go get some pizza or whatever. I was gonna go get something to eat. And then I'm walking and I hear this music come out of this record store, and I immediately just said, "Oh fuck!" And I just walked in, and I just started looking around, and then I heard the first song, which was called "Funny Friends," and then the second song was I think was "Bicycles," and but it was this group called Unknown Mortal Orchestra, and I was just standing there listening, listening to. Like, I was like, okay, if the second song's great, I'm gonna ask what this is, and then the second song was great, and then the third song was great, and I was like, yo, what is this? I went up to him. He's like, oh, it's this new group, Unknown Mortal Orchestra. It's their first album. And I was like, I want it. Let me grab that right now. And I went and I took that and I went and I just listened to that album over and over and over again. And then started, it usually starts like that. I'll hear something and I'll be like, dude, I got to have that. Or I need that. Or something I want to play. Like as a DJ, that's always still my thing is I want to play it. I gotta figure out a way to present this to the world in my circles or whatever. So it's I still love crate digging. I love being turned on to music, man. Any friend that turns you on to new music is a good friend indeed.
Hell yeah. I love that. I love that. I always
Yeah.
think about how, because I've probably been put on to more stuff vis-a-vis like through Deftones, through
Yeah.
my fandom of Deftones and their musical tastes and the things that they put me onto. My musical interest is so much broader than it could have ever possibly been. Now, this day and age, Spotify and the algorithm, it definitely has opened up a whole lot of doors and that sort of thing. But there is, I feel like, nothing more interesting than getting put on by a person that you know and that you know what I mean, that you like, especially somebody who you admire and you're interested in what they get, what they're consuming. And then the thing that always comes up immediately after that is how are these dudes finding all of this wild and I know there's got to be some traveling the world and all of those things, but it's just like, geez, it's a lot of like disparate, wild, different, not in any one lane
Oh, yeah.
except good. Good's the only lane that's consistent. You know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
thread. And it's
Yeah.
always just like, how do you discover that? How do you find even the time to consume? It's so like just even logistically, like when do you listen? When do you consume? What are you gonna do after
Ev-
this? After we get off of the call, you're gonna go try to check some music.
Always. I mean, I listen to music more than I do anything. I mean, I think uh listening to music is key. It's as necessary as breathing for me. I need to hear music. I need to hear music that I like. I need to hear music that inspires. And yeah, I still like, yeah, for sure. I think after we probably finish doing this, I'm probably gonna practice. I've been trying to work on this new order mix that I'm really trying to get, like I do these mixes where if I get super zeroed in on a band, I I start to study everything, and then I try to put together my compilation of me mixing it, but it's my favorite songs, and I'll do volume, side one, side two, maybe side two, three and four, but like I'll send you some Deftones ones I've done where I just
Hell
go
yeah.
2 hours of playing their shit. It's rad.
I know you did just a straight Prince sets for the Crosses shows. That was the Hollywood Forever shows, right?
Yeah, that's the tradition. When they first, what was it? It was 2013 when they first started that when they did that first tour when it was a full band. Like they Chino hit me up. He was like, "Yo, we were, me and Sean were talking. We was wondering if you want to do a full Prince set at when we're playing Spaceland." And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" are you kidding me? That'd be great. And so that's when me and like Sean started really kind of kicking it and just like good because he's a huge Prince fan, as I'm a huge Prince fan, and so is Chino. Like I remember when he passed, I'd hit Chino the next day. I was like, "Yo, like, how you doing?" And he was like, "All right." And I was like, "Have you listened to anything yet?" He's like, "I just listened to Bob George, and that's about it." I was like, "Oh, all right, me, dude, I haven't listened to anything yet." He's like, "Damn, I know." Like, so yeah, it was that was the first show of that whole tour. And so when it came time to do this last run at Hollywood Forever, they were like, "Yo, you want to do another Prince set?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to do another Prince set." Like this is I'm here. I'm always here for that shit. Let's
It's
go.
tradition. I love it, dude.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's so hard. And I'm from Minneapolis. I'll show you. He's in here. He's over the
Woo!
shoulder.
Oh, I
You see
see
him?
him.
He's in here.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So, you know, got to hold it down. But I think that's pretty rad. I was like, especially after I saw the videos of everybody at Hollywood Forever, I was like, shit, I should have found a way out to that motherfucker. But I saw him in Dallas. I got to go catch him in Dallas. So I was
Oh
like,
hell yeah, dude.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
those shows
special.
are special. Those shows are special, man. Like I was so stoked to see like just the two piece because before it was like when they played it was at Sunset Strip anniversary with like Pumpkins and Failure. Like it was a bunch of people on the lineup that day, and just the band was rad, but it was dope to see fucking Sean and Chino hold it down. You know what I mean? Like I was like, yeah, those are my G's right there.
Oh, they killed it. They
Yeah,
killed it.
man.
And I love Sean. Chino is my favorite musician of all time. Seeing him in his whatever era this is of Chino right now is pretty like it's remarkable, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. He's a G.
it's 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 wild, bro. It's wild. Like it's great.
Yeah, man.
It's super cool. It's got to be fun for you to see like I don't know, right? Like to be able to go like, whoa, like damn, dog, you still do, I mean
Hell
not just
yeah.
but not even just Chino, frankly. Like
Oh, all of
for
them.
right? Like it's
I mean, I've known. I mean, as long as I'm, saying, and that's when I was going back yesterday in my head. I was like, oh my god, I've known Chino like personally since '99, and then when I was out with Korn for Rock and Ring, Rock and Park in 2000, um, Deftones and Slipknot were playing on a night we weren't, and so I got to go hang with them, and that's when I saw the Tones for the first time, and it was one of the most glorious shows I've ever seen. Like Abe became my like pretty much my favorite drummer at that show because he was just that man is just yeah, that man can do no wrong for me on drums.
amen. Amen.
And
Why does he hit
I've
him so
seen
hard, man? Why does he got to beat him so like he beats the death out of those drums?
I think they owe him something. I think he hits those drums like they owe him something.
So you
But
said that was Rock am Ring,
Rock and
uh
Park
Rock and Park, which year? Do you recall?
2000. It was the
2000?
year. It was the year that fucking Korn. It was like we did two shows where Korn went on before Rage, and that was, and I didn't know there was, that was crazy. I didn't know there was any like that. There was some discontent between Rage's crew to our crew,
Oh, word.
and I got to see them make amends, and that was
Word.
really rad. Like, yeah, because there was rumor that like Rage's Rage thought that Korn was biting their steez, and they were
Word.
like, "Nah, Holmes, like you guys did it first. Like we're just doing our own thing over here, but we love you." And they were able to like, I saw Jonathan and Zach talking, and it was like, and I've known Zach for a minute too because he knew me for being here on Power 106, and um, so just to see that happened, and then on an off day, I went to go see. It was me and Mike Borden, and we went to go see. Yeah, it was like Queens were doing a side show. They were playing on one of the other side stages, and then we went to go see Deftones and Slipknot. So yeah, just watching, I remember seeing that show and I was like, Jesus Christ, like, whoa, that was like, I was like, oh shit. And it was at that point after watching, like, and I was kind of like in, the crew and we're hanging out, drinking and smoking. And I'm just like, holy shit, I'm in some shit. Like in a good way, in the best fucking way possible.
Hell yeah.
Like little old me, a hip hop DJ from Bakersfield, California, is out here on the other side of the world, and I'm just like, Zach's right there. Fucking everybody was just, I was just like, holy shit, this is fucking like I'm still in awe of it to this day. And I was 24 years ago.
I mean, it's special. It's
Really,
special.
yeah. So, and it was at that point we just had like I got on really good with everyone in the Deftones. And so we just stayed in touch. We exchanged numbers, and then after that tour, went back, of course, to radio, and then like anytime they were in LA, yo, what's up? What up? We're doing, And
Yeah.
I remember going to the White Pony sessions. Like they were at Cherokee with Terry Date, and Fieldy was like, "Yo, we're gonna go to the Deftones studio," and I was like, "All right, cool." And so we walked in. It was Chino and Terry, and we're just hanging out. And he was like, "Yo, I want to play you something." And fucking the first song he played was "Change," and I was like, oh, "All right." And it was in the rough. It was in, it wasn't finished. And I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Not knowing it was gonna be a fucking, classic, and after it was released. But I was like, "Yeah, this is rad. This is cool." And so yeah, that was like that's when I first went into the studio with them. That was on that first record, on that White Pony record. And then once we got me and Head used to love listening to White Pony. Like their management office had got an early copy of White Pony and sent it to us. Mind you, this is on CD. We didn't have files back then. It was like legit physical media. Um, and yeah, and then we just listened to it on the bus, dude, and we were just like, holy shit, this is fucking amazing. Like we would listen to that album every night after the show, and we would just sit there fucking just, yeah, I knew that album by like the back of my hand. Like by the time we finished that Sick and Twisted tour.
Was Back
Like,
to School on it?
no, it was just Pink Maggot. Back to School came, yeah, later. uh and that's, I was supposed to go to that video shoot, but I had to go pick up my son in Baco, so I couldn't make it. But they were doing was at some school in the Valley here in LA. But yeah, I remember they were like, "Oh, okay, you guys are doing it," and they're like, "Yeah," and so I was like, "Oh, cool, I can't make it." But yeah, I remembered, yeah, listening to, and I got the first promos of it, the red vinyl cover with the red vinyl. Uh, so I got dubs of those.
Ooh, those babies go for a pretty penny on the internet these days.
Not mine. Mine have been worn and torn. They're played.
Hell yeah. That's what's up.
I got, you know what? It's funny because I have a few albums that people are like, "Why are you playing?" Like, I know those people that see me play those. They're like, "Why are you playing this?" I was like, "I don't have another one. Like, this is the one that I play." Like, and I also
I'm
have
waiting for somebody to give me the 20th anniversary edition. What do you want
oh
me
man,
to
yeah.
do?
I have all the other ones. I have all the other ones. But yeah, I remember like, so that album, people are like, "Why are you playing?" That's funny. And the first self-titled Queens of the Stone Age album I have, that every time I go into Amoeba and I've ever seen it, it's like a rack. It's like $1,000. But I have the special blue one that was only made for the band members. And Nicky Peeps, Nick Olveri, he gave me his. He's like, "Dude, you'll play this more than I ever will." It's like, fuck yeah, dude. So I love playing vinyl that people are like, "Why are you playing it?" And I'm like, it's the only copy I got to play. And if I don't play it,
Dude,
I
that
mean,
rules.
what kind of a DJ am I?
Hey man, that rules. That's so hard. That's so dope. So you got to know Chino, exchanged some music, and then you got to know all the guys
Yeah.
at Rock M Park. or Rockin' Ring, Rockin'
Yep.
one or the other. And then you just keep in touch every time they come around. It's just a cool friendship. And then you start going to visit them at the recording sessions.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, then like while I'm still on the radio, because I was and I'm also starting to do beats and stuff, like I started getting calls. Like I had this group Lexicon that I was working on, and we had went out to go do uh what's the what's the film Sundance
Oh
in
wow,
Park City, right?
dope,
So
smooth.
so so the band I'm in, Lexicon, we opened for Black Rebel Club, or Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. Those guys, they're kind of shoegazy but kind of rad. Um, so we opened for them, and it was me, just a DJ and two MCs, and we were just doing some hip hop shit. But we were kind of going into the rock realm, but it was more like not. It was more indie rock than it was like the rock that I was spinning or whatever. And so mind you, we're at this thing, and I'm like, we're getting ready to go on. Like we go on in like 3 hours, and then Chino calls me. He's like, "Hey, what are you up to tomorrow?" And I was like, I don't know. He goes, "You want to come open for us?" I was like, "Sure, where at?" He's like, "Sacto." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Dude, I'm in Park City right now. I got to give it." He's up. "I'll take care of all your flights. We'll get you up here. It'll be all good." Okay. So then I got called for this one off to open for him in Sacto. It was self-titled. I think it was self-titled. Like it was a self-titled album, because I remember it was the first time I saw Needles, Needles and Pins played live, and I saw Steph break out that fucking bass that he plays for that song, and I was just like, "Oh shit!" And so then they started calling me to open shows, and I was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm down to just play some shit." And so I got asked to play that, and then I did like a smoke out with him, a Cypress Hill smoke out, and then I got called to do the Saturday night wrist run, where they started West Coast, and they were gonna go all the way to the East Coast and end up at Ezrin's house so they could finish the record. And so I did the West Coast leg of that, and they really wanted me to stay on for the whole thing, but the band I was in, Lexicon, were giving me shit because I was producing their record and providing, beats, and also like, producing, like, coaching vocals and takes and all this shit. So they were pissed at me that, like, "Oh dude, you don't, we really want to finish this record." So being the guy that I was like, "All right, I believe in, let's fucking do it." So I told them, like, I got to bail out after Vegas because I got to go back and finish this record. And they're like, "Dude," and they were really kind of bummed about it. And I was like, "I'm sorry, man. It's just I got to do it." And now looking back at it, I'm like, "Fuck that other band, dude. I should have fucking just went and fucking just stayed on the whole time." And I'll say it again. Fuck that other band.
Periods.
POS.
Oh man. Well,
So
hindsight is
yeah,
2020, right? Hindsight being
yeah.
2020. So you
So
got to do, wow, you did like several runs
yeah,
with them. That's
yeah. It
crazy.
was a
Wait, and somewhere in there you did Ataraxia, the Team Sleep drum track,
yeah.
right? You did the
Yep,
drums for that?
yep. I sure did. That was during Saturday Night Wrist. Um, so before, as they're in, as they're doing Saturday Night Wrist over at Morning View in Malibu, Chino was like, "Yo, I got this," because I had played him some of my beats, and I do all of my beats off of SP1200, an old drum machine, and so I was sending him shit because I was like, he was like, "Fuck it, all right." So I was giving him shit, and then he was like, "Yo," he called me, and he was like, "Yo, if I send you some like demo music, you think you could like program something to it?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." So he sent me what would be the music for Ataraxia, and then there was another song that I didn't even get to do because I got so fixated on Ataraxia. So I was just, literally it took me like a few days to come, like a week, I would say a week all in all, to come up with the drums for that. And so I had sent him, I kind of made my own makeshift version. I was like, where I did it, I had a CDJ. And so I would mix the CDJ over the drum machine as I hit it live. And, and so I got him, I was like, yeah, here's what I came up with. And he was like, yo, this is dope. Can you come up to Malibu and we'll put it down? I was like, fuck yeah, hell yeah, I'm down. So I went up to Malibu and Morning View, and I remember seeing Abe, I think it was Steph and Frank, and they saw me with my drum machine, and they're like, "Oh, what's up?" And I was like, "What's up, dude?" They're like, "We gonna jam?" And I was like, "I'm actually laying stuff for the other thing," and I didn't know about the tensions at the time because I was just happy
Word.
to be there, you know.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Oh," and then I went and did it, and I just kind of hung out, and everything was cool. But I didn't understand, that there was tension there. So yeah, that's when I did Ataraxia, and that was fucking a blast. It was so fucking cool because I remember we did that before they, after right before they did the tour going to go finish at Erson's house, and so Chino had got the final, he got the final track listing of the record, so he was playing it, and I was just like, oh shit, this shit sounds dope, and he was playing it loud, and I was like, damn, dude, you playing it like loud in front of everybody, you know what I mean, like, and we're getting ready to do some Deftones shit, Also, when I did that West Coast run, because I didn't, I played Ever Foreign Flag for the first time um, when I did that. Yeah, I did 2 nights with them at House of Blues in Hollywood that isn't even around anymore. But yeah, on that run, I played Ever, and everyone was like, "Fuck."
That's
I also played,
crazy.
and on the radio, I played that. I played Ever, and I also played. He had shot me an early copy of Mercedes off the Team Sleep, the first incarnation of it. Like,
Yeah.
um, and so I was playing that. I was playing that in my mixes. In fact, I even got an old mix from back then when I was doing rock. I used to do these rock hip hop mixes, and I put that in there. I think I mixed it with like What Happened to That Boy, Baby, and Neptunes and Clips or whatever.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so yeah, dude, he used to come by and just shoot me like, "Hey man, I got something for you. Play it." All right, cool. It's cool. I can play it. Yeah. All right.
On Power 106 too, which
On
is
Power
what's
106. Yeah.
that's so dope. Like to hear who I think is one of I'll put it is one of my favorite rappers. I know there is some discussion on can Chino still rap. Uh, I don't need a jury to tell me. I've seen it, I've heard it, I know he's got it. And back then when he was doing his thing, so imagine him being on the radio in that context. As a radio guy, especially, is very that pleases me. That gives me great joy.
Yeah, dude. It was yeah, he was, I mean, it was dope because he would always come into the set. Like we didn't always when he came to the show, he didn't always get on the air. He would just come to kick it,
Word.
and it was dope. Like, and that's like one of the things I really love about like our friendship still to this day. It's like we see each other and it's all hugs, and it's like almost immediately either out of one of us like, "Hey, have you heard this?" And "Oh, nah, have you heard this?" "Nah," and then we just kind of like I gotta send him a folder today because I promised him at the Crosser shop, like, "Yo, I gotta put you onto this group," and he was like, "All right, yeah, send it to me. Let me know how to listen to it because it's a gang of shit." And I was like, "Got you." So yeah.
What are you gonna send him?
uh, I'll let him tell
All right, bet. Bet.
it.
I gotta get him on now. I gotta get him back on. Um, take take me back to that. Because I feel like for as much as it is celebrated now, it's having a full on renaissance Saturday Night Wrist. And I don't want to dwell too much on the tension, but I do feel like um it is important to sort of I don't know, add some context to this like piece of art that is like the TikTok generation or whomever has super latched onto. Um, but to me, as somebody who was experiencing it at the time, and I was like, I was fucked up about it because I understood the tension in the band, and I was
Mm-hmm.
also like, damn, this Team Sleep shit is good. Is my band fucking done? Because this Team Sleep shit is hard.
Yeah.
It seems like there is some I don't know, like I don't want people to forget that I was going through it, basically. I was
Yeah.
going through it as a Deftones fan. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of us were, because it was like, yo, what is going on? Right? Like it was a
Yeah.
big question mark.
Yeah. It was, but
Or
I
at least
think
from
it
the
was.
outside, it was.
Yeah. I don't think. As far as I knew, he never. It was never like a all or. You know what I mean? Either or. It was like he wanted to go. Stretch out.
Yeah.
Let me just stretch out. Let me just.
Word.
So I think that was it, and I think he was really excited about it, and that was like yeah, I mean, amongst the tension that it was, everyone was still all good though. Like it
Yeah.
was I just remember hearing that like, Chino wasn't necessarily getting along with like Bob Ezrin. But they still were committed to putting the record together,
Yeah.
but then that's why, and when Sean came in, it just all snapped in, and he was able to get that heat out. Um, so it was yeah, it was a beautiful time, man. I remember, yeah, I remember it was really cool. Like everyone was still cool. I don't remember as much. I just remember hearing about it afterwards, but everyone in front of me was all fucking, it was great. Everyone was cool. It was hugs and, what up? It was
Yeah.
hang.
Yeah.
So
But there had to be some question like, what is going on?
yeah, I'm sure there was, but to him, I think it was a chance for him to just go, just stretch out. I don't think there was always talk about going back to the Deftones. It just wasn't, he wanted to do this first and he was really into it. And it was something else for him to do, like in the same realm, except he was able to get more musical ideas out. And I think that was really important to him at the time. And shit, that record, dude, I can't believe that record's 19 years old.
I know.
It's
I think
like that.
it really I think it allowed Deftones to grow, frankly. I think it allowed and the continued work, just giving Chino room to do other things or what any of the guys, given that they all have the freedom to just be themselves. And I'm sure the first time is probably the weirdest times, like, all right, what's going on? But then as things, life goes on
Yeah.
and everybody moves on, they sort of go, oh, all right, well, yeah, yeah, okay, whatever. But now I sort of wish like, damn, we got to get that band back together, man. I need that Team Sleep shit to come back again too. That shit goes hard.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh, it's so special. Those songs are so special. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that solidified my love of like without even knowing, like, I was a big shoegaze fan of like early, like, like the Sundays, and then it progressed, and then Autolux was a big, like, big band for me because I was like, oh my god, like these guys are heavy, but it's just so beautiful too. But I think that album, it solidified that, like, oh, I'm not the only one that likes this type of rock. Just for me personally, you know what I mean? And then it also had the Crook programming in it, which is as fucking stellar as it gets. I love that dude. I love Crook One. Crook One is like, I love talking music and DJ shit with him because he gets it. And like, if you were to put me, Chino, Crook, and Sean in the room together, oh my god, like it would be like we would just start talking the most music shit of all time. And then that is my happy place. To be able to, you know, talk all that shit with them. But that record was really kind of, you know, like I still get fucking chills when I listen to fucking Boulevard Nights off that record, you know. That's, you know, and then
Did you cop the vinyl? The new one?
not yet. Not
Oh,
yet. I know it's on vinyl. I know. I
I know
talked
you
to
got some
Crook.
people. I mean, it's sold out over here. It's tough. It's
No,
a tough one to find.
hey, Crook just posted on his socials that like that was the number 10 best selling record of all the record store day.
Like
Like
to
that's
me
amazing.
it feels very it feels gratifying. Like
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
I knew this was great. Told you, even if it's just the same kids that bought it 20 years ago buying it as grown folks, like,
Right.
hey, it's great, and it's top 10 for a reason. Because man, some of those songs are just all of those songs. Frankly,
Yeah.
it's
I hit him Crook. He saved me a copy, so I'm stoked.
good.
But yeah,
I would
because
hate for you to not be able to have that in your library in the catalog. You got to have that.
yeah, because the thing about that record is that, you know, it was never, you know, this is the first time on vinyl the whole 19 years that it's been around. So it was only CD, so I could only play it if I had my CDJ with me,
Word.
my CD turntable. So I can never just do, you know, like, oh, I gotta have my
That ain't
CDJ.
you. That ain't
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I did it. I did it for a long time. You know, I used to have the CDJ with me because if I didn't have the CDJ with me, I would have never played Foreign Flag at the House of Blues show with Deftones. I thought, yeah. So it was. I'm just so stoked that it's there, and it's really it's gratifying, as you said. But the cool thing is that like it's all these people, these new people, you know, that are discovering it, and then, you know, they see my name there and they're like hitting me on like DM or text. They're like, yo, is this you? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. They're like, holy shit, why didn't you ever tell us? And I was like, dude, were you around 19 years ago when this shit happened? Because
You
that's
just
when it
did.
happened.
The difference is you weren't advertising it on Facebook or Instagram
Yeah.
or on
Yeah.
YouTube or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we didn't just. It was it was like the precipice of the time where information was everywhere immediately all at once. Like
Yeah.
we weren't quite there yet. And in some ways I feel like that sort of makes the team sleep stuff a little more special.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think even more, yeah, because if you were there, you knew. And then now everyone else is coming to the party, you know, whether 19 years later or not, like they're coming, and it's rad because people are now hearing that that record is it's a no skip record. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can just put it on and just let it take you. And that's one of the things I listened to it for the first time in years last week. I was tripping on. I told Chris the other day when I was texting him. I was like, yo, I listened to this. Holy shit, this shit is good. This shit is real. Like,
I love that you're like surprised.
you know, well, you know, because I don't necessarily go back and listen to a bunch of stuff, you know.
I
Not that I
suppose
have a lot.
you being on it too sort of makes it like a right?
Well,
Like a
no,
little bit like I don't want to be
I was,
self-indulgent.
but
Or maybe you do,
I'm,
maybe you should.
well now when I look back on it, that's my proudest like drum programming I've ever done.
Oh, that's so
Like,
cool.
uh, like that's just, I mean, it's a moment in time, dude. And I can remember where I was when I did those drums. I was living at this house in Glendale, and I just had my own studio room, and we were just like, I just do it, and just I was in my own zone for that week, and then just to pop up for air and be like, oh yeah, I think it's done. I think I got it down, and then for them to, because there was always the chance they could not accept it. They could be like, nah, this isn't what we're looking for.
Word.
And Chino was like, nah, dude, this works. And I was like, well, fuck, okay. Like, yeah, you want to come to Morning Beat? I was like, yeah, come record it. I was like, all right. So it was definitely that's one of my most shining moments of my career. Absolutely.
That's so cool. It's worth being proud of. It's definitely worth being proud of. There's, I think, no small number of people that have love for that album, but also for that song. And you should totally wear that badge proudly. That's dope as hell.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are sort of coming around again, it was pretty special that they whipped out Please Please at
Yeah.
Coachella, and there you were
Yeah.
right there for it. That's when I finally decided. I was like, I gotta ask this dude if he'll come rap with me, because you were right there for oh, those Coachella. I mean, I was watching at home on YouTube, but man, like hairs standing up. It was great.
Sorry about this is downtown LA right here. So my apologies if you
Oh
hear
no, I can't hear
sirens.
it. No, if you, as long as you can hear me, I can't hear you, any of your background.
Hell
You're
yeah.
chilling. Yeah, you're chilling. So what was Coachella like?
It was great. It was fucking amazing. I mean, I was just so stoked to see the guys again. You know what I mean? Like, I work with Steph all the time on Be Real TV, and we've gotten really close over these last like however many years he's been there. I've been there for 13 years, and he's been there for like over half that. Um, so I was able to like I was just stoked, and I was like, he was like, "Yo, you want to go?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I went over there, and dude, it was it was the best to be able to connect. Dude, talking with Abe is one of my favorite things of all time. Me and Frank always talk music, and Steph was he was ready. And Chino, of course, like it was so dope. And Fred, dude, I love Fred. I remember going to take vinyl to sell vinyl to him when he worked at Amoeba. And he's always been really nice. And he played with Goon Moon and Mance. I remember him from back in the day. And so yeah, it was just awesome to be in that. And me and Abe, we just love to talk shit, joke around a lot. So it was good to get back to that. It was like we have these names for each other and shit, and just like we just talk this shit. And it's like, if you can keep up with Abe, you can keep up with anybody, because that motherfucker is he's the quickest wit of anyone I know.
Word.
Yeah, that's that. I love you, Abe.
And
If
you
you're
work for
listening up,
you've worked in radio, so you've known some assholes, but some quick wits.
yeah, it's just like Abe is he's top tier, bro. Like if I had to join, if I was in a quickest wit battle, I would absolutely love to have Abe as on my team. That would
Number
be,
one
I
draft
think,
pick.
number one draft pick would be Abe Cunningham. Absolutely.
That's so tight. And I love that you, so you used to say that again. We used to buy records from Fred at Amoeba, or sell, what would
Yeah,
you?
Fred used to, Fred worked at Amoeba,
Yeah.
and so I would go, being you remember, back in the 90s and 2000s when they would ship vinyl, to the radio DJs to play. So I would get sometimes 4 to 6 extra copies of, other than the two I needed to play on radio. So I could sell whatever I had. I could just go to Amoeba and trade it in for credit, And so I
Oh
remember
yeah.
seeing him at Amoeba all the time, and just he was always cool to me, you know what I mean? And just like, and then I started seeing when I was with the Queens guys, and he started working with Goon Moon. Like I was like, oh, okay, like
I know
dude
that
is
dude.
I was like, and dude's a badass on the bass, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not only is he a fucking cool dude, but he's a badass on the bass. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that was fucking, that was really, Coachella was really cool, because I saw the first weekend at home. I was home. I couldn't go. I think I had to do some work here, and I couldn't go, but I was like, I'm going for sure next week. And so I saw the set, and everyone was like, oh my God, they did fucking the Smiths. And I was like, shit, they never done that. And it's funny when you go to the Reddits and you go, and everyone, like, I get what Sean was saying in that episode. He was like, there's a certain core of Deftones fans that think they know everything, right? That they are just for sure. And like people started like arguing, like, oh, they've done that before. And I was like, dude, no, they've never done, it's been, if they haven't done it recently, in a long time. And I remember asking Steph, I was like, when did you guys do it? He goes, man, I don't know. I remember doing it like maybe like once around at the time we recorded it, but I don't remember like us ever pulling that out. And I was like, okay. And so it was just like I saw that and I was like, okay, and I was like, dude, I know they're gonna pull out some more tricks for because I asked Steph, I was like, yo, you guys aren't gonna do the same set again. And he's like, we got a couple things planned. And I was like, word. And that's all you need. I knew exactly. I was like, I got to be at the second weekend.
Hell
And
yeah.
when they pulled out Rosemary and Royal, I was like, and they started off with fucking Combat. I was like, yo, like this is it right here. This
Yeah.
is, and to be able to watch from the side, like, and just see everyone, like the crowd was super more into it than the first weekend from what I had saw. Like, cause everyone was just fucking singing and dancing. Like it was like you saw, like I could see from their view of the stage, and everyone was just fucking into it. And and I thought it was just really, it was special, dude. I was like, here we are, dude, like Coachella. And I'm hearing fucking, and I'm hearing Rosemary, like live
So cool.
in like in the perfect fucking sunset weather. You know, the sundown set's always the one.
Yeah.
Like,
And why
like,
are they always that band that plays the sunset set? You know what I mean? Like they're
yeah.
always that band. It's like without fail. It's and it is that that's the one. We're like, Pafagul, you know what I mean? That
Yeah,
sundown set.
it's the perfect to go, it's because it's the perfect music to go from something bright and beautiful into this dark and beautiful thing. You know what I mean? Like, let the
Hell
night
yeah.
take me. Let's go.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I love that. I love that. And I think it's so cool that um they continue to, I feel like, acknowledge and understand the moment and rise to it. I mean, it's you know, it's really special because I feel like for so long there was just so many of us, and now there's so many of us. You feel
Yeah,
me? And it's
yeah,
like I don't ever want to gatekeep my band. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to
yeah,
now see, even if it's an H&M 19-year-old shopping, great. I want a 19-year-old. We need more 19-year-old girls in our club. It's all
yeah,
good. It's all good.
yeah. Keep further the legacy of the music, man. Absolutely.
It's tremendous. But to play Please Please, and for the audience to go to that song, have you any idea, like, what you've been around radio for a long enough? You know how to work a room. You understand what makes an audience move. What do you think it is about that song? Like, to me, I've continued to be like really a little bit baffled by the draw of this obscure sort of cover from the B-sides album. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what
I,
is
I
that?
think I think it's well, I think there's a lot of people that love the Smiths and have this certain connection to them. And it took me like as a kid growing up, like the goth kids that I talked to and hung out with, they were more Depeche Mode and The Cure. Very rarely mentioned the Smiths. It wasn't until I got into the Smiths till later, and I understood because I was like, oh shit. But I think like for me in my town of Baco growing up, I remember just being more Depeche Mode and The Cure. So when but there was also Smiths, and I just never heard it in my circle. And I think as many people as that do love the Smiths, you can quadruple that if it's the Deftones covering the Smiths. Because here's another cherished band covering another cherished band, and it's a song you wouldn't necessarily think would be in their repertoire. I mean, you would, but do you think that'd be the one that they'd pull out on the B side? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and I think it's that. Yeah, it's just like it's you're almost able to, double the love of that song in particular based on just the fact that, oh shit, this is, the Deftones covered this. Oh, and then it sounds like the Deftones covering the Smiths. The Smiths have never had that kind of heavy, like just that Deftones thing under it. You know what I mean? But this is the Deftones truly turning a Smith song into theirs. And that's a beautiful fucking thing, man. I mean, just like the way they covered the Cardigans, Do You Believe? I love the Cardigans. I love the Cardigans. I had a crush on that girl so tough. And I remember
To this
working at
day.
to
To
this
this
to this
day.
day to this day. Oh my! I think is it Nina? Oh God! Yeah, 100, 100,000 million.
And she looks, I feel like, the exactly the same today.
I'm saying to this day,
To
yes.
this day.
Let's go. But so um, in my own musical journey, like fucking discovered the first. I discovered First Band on the Moon, and then discovered that they had two albums before that, and then Torino,
Gran
was it
Turismo.
Turismo,
Yeah,
yes.
Turismo. Yeah.
So that album is a perfect album, and
Amen.
that album helped me with some shit, like
Mm.
personally. Like it was one of those albums that's there for you. And I remember talking to Chino. We talked about that record, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I love this record." He's like, "Yeah, me too." And then find out everyone else in the band loved the record, and then they somehow covered "Do You Believe?" And I was like, to me, that cover means the most. Out of I love all their covers, um, but that to me, because it was like, oh my god, they covered a song that means a lot to me, and those are my boys. Like, and they did it right. Like, that's I mean, the way that they do covers, man, is like it's unlike anyone else. That's what I really love about it.
It is really special. It's one of my favorite things, and it's one of those things that I think has like been a factor in putting me on to great music. Except for
Yeah.
Simple Man, I don't like that song. I don't like Leonard Skinner. Not for me.
Superman. Yeah.
It's not for me. But the other shit is great. Do you have a favorite Deftones song
uh
or album, if that's easier?
my favorite, well, because that changes. It changes with my moods. Like any like as being like being a Prince fan, like because he has such a volume of music, of a mass amount of music. Like I tend to like some shit more than others certain weeks. And I would say this, if I had to pick a favorite album this week, Koi no Yokin.
Word.
Yeah.
What is it about that one? Why is that one?
It's beautiful and it's heavy and it's spooky and it's fucking I mean, Poltergeist. I remember them trying that out on the road. And and Nick Raskulinec's production is fucking, it's the best. Uh, but yeah, I think Koi no Yokin, there's like Leathers, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Swerve City. Uh, what happened to you? Oh, what happened to you? Oh my God, that's woo right here, dog. Right here. I'm patting the heart right now.
Amen. Yeah.
That
Yes.
song to me, somewhere else. Oh man, come on, man. That song, yeah. That song to me, yeah. So to me, it's a perfect beginning and a perfect everything through, and then the ending is just fucking Abe killing it. Everyone is just so fucking rad on that. That song is. So I would say, yeah. What happened to you? That would. I'll say that's my favorite song of the moment right now. Yeah.
So dope. I think it was the most recent Dia that they busted that out. Or maybe it was 2 years ago. And it was like, whoa. It just didn't expect it, didn't see it. And that
Yeah.
album, I feel like, is such an example. I feel like when they really um came into their own, I suppose, in a sense of like um just crafting a complete album. Like obviously Pony was a breakthrough thing, and there were commercial ups and downs and band things in between, but it seemed like while Diamond Eyes was the return of the band,
Right.
it felt like Koi was this return to, all right, now we're going to start being artists again, and we're going to show you how artful we are in what we do, right? But
Yep.
when you talk to them, they're just making records. They're just
Right.
making it. Who's the one who's is it Chino steering that ship in terms of just like art? Is everybody talking? How what is
Oh, yeah.
this? Because there is
Everybody's
a
talking.
high art to this, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and they know this.
Yeah. I think I think they're all on the same page. I remember during that album, like everyone was on the same page. And Nick Raskulinecz was the perfect fucking coach and cheerleader of like, yeah, dude, that's badass. We need to fucking do, like he he let them breathe and coached them into the better parts of the song. Like, just being able to like, yeah, that was great. Cool. Like, like he recognized all the brilliant parts of it. And yeah, they were all at that point, they were all like together. It was all like, everyone in the room making, talking about it and everyone agreeing on
That's
things
hard to do. That's really hard to think. Like to have five guys collaborating, and I mean, I understand how it takes an outside voice to really keep everybody sort of to help steer the ship, keep everybody on the same team and on the same page and all of that sort of stuff. But to put same team to put everybody on the same page and like to really continue to produce at such a high art level, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is wow. Have you heard the new shit?
Yes. I've heard all the instrumentals.
Yeah. What do you think? Play something for me. No, what do you think? What do you
Hell no,
say
I
something?
can't, dude. I get in trouble every time I talk about Deftones shit. Did you guys?
I don't know
Did
when
you
this is
hear?
coming out.
uh,
Before the record, I hope. Before the record comes out, but I don't know.
well, last time I talked, because during pandemic I started, DJing on Twitch, and because I
Word.
had to get an outlet, I wasn't gonna go crazy just sitting here
That's why I
twiddling my
started this
thumb,
podcast. So I
dude.
get it. Yeah.
Hell yeah, high five, bro.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, and I've been working at B Real TV for a while yeah, I think oh fuck, it was like 8-9 years at that point. So, talking with Steph, who works there, and is part of us as well. He was, we were just talking, and he played at first. The first one was Ohms, right? It was that song, and then Genesis, right? That's the rollout of Ohms,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
right. So when they dropped Ohms, I played it, and then I just made a comment. There was only like, I think there was 50 people in my room. There's like maybe I don't even think there was 50, maybe 60 people. And so I made a comment. I was like, "Ooh, wait till you hear this next single. It's heavy as fuck." And the next thing I know, management is like, what, like, I'm getting calls I'm getting calls, dude. And then I see that I made it on the Metal Injection site.
I do remember that now that you mention it. I remember.
And I'm just
Next
like,
one, project C minus says this shit is about to blow your ears off.
they're like, and Chino was like, "Yo, we were trying to keep that a secret." And I was like, "Dude, I didn't think there was 50 people
50 people in the room. Little did
I
you
didn't
know it was Wookie Bus or whatever from
whoever
whatever
that
the.
was.
Hey, he's good. It's not the metal. He's not Metal Injection. He's the other one. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they got me on some shit too, man. I've been there. I no
And
management didn't blow me up though, so thank goodness.
hell yeah, I got the call from like, "Hey, we were trying to keep that a secret about we were trying to hit him," and I was like, I'm just sorry, dude. I love you guys. There's nothing I never want to jeopardize anything,
I
but
don't think you fucked anything up. I think
no,
I think it
it
did
still
okay.
hit.
It
It
still
still
hit
hit
pretty
him.
good. It still hits hard. I love Ohms. How great is Ohms, right?
Ohms is
But
a
for
great. I remember like um listening to that because Steph brought it. He brought me a vinyl, a record, and he's like, "Here you go." And I was like, "Oh!" And I went home and I listened to it, and I was like, "Oh my god, like this shit sounds so good on vinyl." Like, and I remember being like, "Wow, this shit is heavy. This is like low end heavy." You know what I mean? Like it was just fucking felt great. And of course, the spell of mathematics is probably my favorite on that record.
mm,
Uh, yeah, that's my favorite. That record is so fucking good, dude. I love it. I love everything about that record.
I
And
really hope that because they didn't get to tour it right away or support it as regular as they would have normally, I really hope that those songs aren't forgotten in the live show as they have to, there's only so many songs that you could squeeze into a 90-minute set. Man, if I don't
yeah,
get to hear Spell of Math in my life, just once in my life live,
yeah, I've
it's
heard
not
it.
it's not
I've
gonna
heard
do.
it. Yeah, it's great.
Ah.
It's
So you heard it at what, like at a sound check in
live.
the studio?
Yeah,
Where how at a sound check?
I think was it? Didn't they play it at a Dia like a couple years ago?
Not Spell of Math.
I've heard them play
Hey man, you got to start recording this stuff, dog.
it. you
We
know,
all, hey, you see this guy right here, right? This is my cell phone. It's got like four cameras
oh
on it,
shit.
bro. It's got like four cameras. You just got to get it out and just let them know, like, hey,
Yeah.
you're doing Spell of Math. I know this dude that has a podcast who would really like to hear it.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll put a pin in that, and I'll try to remember. But I'll tell you one song I have heard live, and I don't know if they've ever, but I've heard it in soundcheck. Was Rats, Rats, Rats.
I
I've
think
heard that.
they, I think they brought that they brought back for Dia 2 years ago, or no,
No, I don't think they played it 2 years ago. I was there 2 years
no,
ago.
maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know, but you've heard Rats 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 live, huh?
Yeah, yeah, I heard Rats, Rats, Rats live. I remember when I went, I did another run with them where I did Ventura and then I did Spaceland before it was changed, before it became the satellite. And that's where they were rehearsing it, but then they were also playing some of the stuff leading up to Eros. So I got to hear Melanie like 2 nights in a row, fucking just
Oh
like,
shit.
and I got to hear. I think there was another song off Eros
I
that
think
was
that's
purported.
that's the one that's probably on YouTube then, is that version of
Yes,
Melly from the start.
yeah, yeah. I was, dude. That shit was hard. And then I've heard the studio version as well of that song, and that shit is fucking. It's through the fucking roof, dude. Like I remember, yeah, when they were doing Diamond Eyes, I was in the studio with them, with Chino, Nick Rastalenix, and it was. I think they were doing vocals on Diamond Eyes, the song. And then I asked them, I was like, "Yo, remember that one song? You guys, it was the hard one you guys did when we did those shows at Satellite in Ventura." He's like, "Oh yeah, Melanie." I was like, "Dude, play. Can you play it for me?" And he just fucking loaded it up and he played it all the way through. And I was like, "Dude, thank you." I was like, I know better than to ask you for it, but if it ever is a thing, I would love I would love to be on the receiving end of that song because
That's
that
so
song is
cool.
so brutal, but it's so good.
Dude, thank you for asking that. Thank you for asking that. Like, because I mean, I would imagine that, when you are friends with these dudes who are, you know, it's their art, it's their livelihood. There's all of the things that come with that. It's probably, you know, it's probably a little weird sometimes to be like, hey man, remember that thing you did that one time? Can you get that out for me real quick?
Oh, dude, I have no shame. Nah, dude, I'll tell them
Yeah, fuck yeah.
hey,
Play that.
especially if I heard it in, hey, when we did this show together, there was this one song, one of the, that was the, hey, can you play it for me? I'm not asking for it, I'm not asking to take it. No, I just, dude, play it
Yeah.
for me. And he was all, Chino would almost, like, yeah, sure, dude. Like, he's like, oh man, I really want to, like I just really wanted to hear that song because I remember when you were doing, I was like, oh yeah, this is some of the new shit that never came to be, and
Yeah.
but I remember like because I asked him, I was like, did you guys do a studio version yet? He's like, yeah. I was like, can I hear it? He's like, yeah. So
Wow.
played it for me, and I was like, holy shit, are you guys ever gonna redo this? He's like, probably not. This is too, it's too much of a special thing. And I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
So
Is that the only song that you've heard from Eros?
no, there's a couple others I've heard. I don't know the names. Um,
But the studio, like the recording, the studio
uh-huh.
recordings, you mean?
At the time, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like I just remember being really stoked that like because I remember like Chi was a really cool dude and was like always very like very rad. Like like when I went into the rehearsal when they did that Rats in North Hollywood, and I was getting out of a thing where I was kind of like just kind of in a bummer place, And she was like, "Oh man, don't trip. You're gonna be good, dude. You're gonna come out on the road with us for a couple days. We're gonna have a blast. We're gonna do some, you're gonna get some new shit, and then I'm gonna hear you play some shit." And he just was like really cool, and and I remember like just being like really stoked about like, fuck yeah, dude. I'm about to go do some shows with Tones again, dude. This is fucking like I think I was in a pretty low place in my personal life. And so but he was like, dude, whatever, man. He was like, we're gonna go do some shit. And I was like, killer. And got me back up into like, playing mode where I was all those guys. Those guys are some of the raddest guys I've ever met in my life. They really like I could literally be in the worst place and running into those guys, all five of those guys is like literally will just turn my frown upside down. It's the best.
I love that. That's a great place to segue to the close. But before I ask you my closing question, um,
Yes.
my like Deftones dream is to just smoke with Steph at this point. That's all I got. I just want to smoke with the dog. What is
Oh
Steph
man.
smoking every day? Tell me what he's blowing on when you guys are doing Be Real TV. Because I don't need to ask you about it. We can watch Be Real TV and just check out what
Yeah.
it's like, but I can't smell it. What's Steph
Oh
blowing on in
man.
there every day?
Well, see, we're either blowing anything like insane, like which is B Real and Kenji. They have they have Dr. Green Thumb, and then
Mm-hmm.
the insane is Kenji's lane. So we'll smoke like lemon cherry July, his OG. We're big fans of OG. The lithium we've been smoking, and we also smoke. We get some heat from Tradecraft Farms. Shout out to Shadow. He's always giving us like so yeah, biscotti and fucking yeah. We really like some good OG is what we really, 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 really dig, and that's what we usually are smoking around over there. Like where uh as long as it's good, like
Hell yeah.
nice and heavy.
That's what's up. Yeah. Do you know anything? Has Steph talked about doing another box? Doing another Deftones drop? Deftones weed?
Oh, you know what? No,
Remember that?
yeah, absolutely. And we were all stoked because we were like, yeah. And then they sold it at the Dr. Greenson's and it sold out quickly, dude.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll ask him now. Uh, I'm sure, he'd love to because
I'll
we are
do a
fans.
I will do a live review wherever live reviews are sold. I will do it. I will
Hell
whatever
yeah,
whatever
dude.
everybody needs, let me know. My closing question is inspired by something Chino said on a podcast once that the reason that he exclusively would just tweet links to songs that he likes is because he thought that was the best thing that he could contribute to social media was just to share music that he likes.
Mhm.
Um, and I want to ask you maybe, you know what, I'm gonna tweak this question just a little bit since you are a Prince guy. Give me could you give me three non-hits to put to turn somebody into a new Prince fan? So
Ooh.
somebody who maybe knows Raspberry Beret
Okay.
or has heard
A
Purple
normie,
Rain, a normie.
right?
But what would be like the three songs that you would say start with? Maybe something to ride to, something sexy. Wow, they're all sexy. That doesn't really. You figure it out, I guess. Maybe
Okay, okay, if we're looking like okay, if we're looking slow jam, I would say uh it was never a single, but it's quite the jam is I mean shit, Adore. That's where you get to see the mastery of the vocal layering and the fucking, he's doing all the instruments himself. And there's just like, you just hear all the, like, you could sit and listen to that song. And at the end, when it hits that crescendo, oh, and you will, if you don't feel a way, then maybe we can't be friends. Because that shit is fucking, and, people hate the use of the term epic, but that song in all its all is a fucking epic jam. I'd say for funk, if you're looking for the funk, you're like, oh man, I don't need to hear the funk shit. I would say there's a Time B-side called Tricky, uh, which is which was a diss to George Clinton. Um, it's funny, dissing has been happening for a while. It's yo, Michelin man, it is old, right? Oh, that's the shit. So I would say that if you're looking for like I mean on the rock side, dude, fuck man. One of my favorite songs, and one of my friends who's an Uber Prince head like us, but I really love like different than the Tricky or the Adore. I really love Dinner with Dolores
Word.
from Chaos and Disorder because it's just such a fuck. It's a jam. It's less than 3 minutes. It's just like he gets to his point and fucking just like whoop like this. He puts it in front of you. This goes no more. That's the end. Like that's it.
Love that.
And some of the best stories are that short. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I did. I know there's probably like.
No, that's beautiful. That's fantastic, man. This has been tremendous. I could pull your ear all day.
Oh yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time, of course, but more than anything, I just want to express my gratitude. This is a passion project for me. Like I said, I was stuck at home in 2020, and my boss had sort of been like pushing me for a while. I was like, you should start a podcast. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I was like, I just want to do one where I just talk about Deftones. He's like, fucking roll with it. So I was like, all right. Can you
Hell
help me
yeah.
connect? And then they did the Ohms rollout. So I got to talk to Chino, and like it was just, the universe or whatever. So
Hell
uh,
yeah.
having conversations like this and being able to, help share them, put them in posterity for new fans to come and for people to discover from the mouths of the people who were there is extra special, man. It's really, really, really extra special.
Oh, well, thank you for wanting to talk to me, man. It's just like it's really a trip because I think of all like you had me thinking. I tried to end my because I was like, oh, let me try to remember everything. You know
I
what I
know,
mean?
right? You can't.
And
There's no way.
it's no, but I did remember like things. You know what I mean? Like I remember, there was just like certain things where like we would be Fieldy, like we were on Fieldy's bus and we were coming from Seattle and we were supposed to go straight to San Francisco for a show, but we found out the Tones were playing some radio festival in Portland. And so we stopped there just to hang out.
That's so cool.
And so it's Fieldy, me, Ham Cam, which is he was like the tour photographer and kind of helped out a lot with the Korn guys. But then like RBX is with us. And so um it was and so RBX gets on stage and they provide an instrumental for RBX to be on stage. And I think Steph somehow worked South of Heaven. And dude, it was like RBX comes on stage, me and Fieldy are standing, we're just watching. We're like, dude, we're supposed to be in San Francisco, but here we are in Portland with the Deftones. Like, all right. Like this life is so fucking rad. Like, fuck yeah.
Oh man, I'm saying like thinking about that, like when you were saying like picking up Chino, and then he's gonna do Wicked on a couple of nights. Like I think about like that's probably from some of those photos on the internet that you've seen where it's like, Chino with Korn and I'm just like, shit, dude, like
Yeah,
you were in that room.
I was there. I was there. It did. And I just remember just being like, oh shit, like, it wasn't until later, I think it was, I started realizing like these dudes are on the, like, they're right on the, like, they're here. Like, and just being like, oh shit, I've been hanging with them for some time now. And, and just like, damn dude, like, cause I just remember, oh man, one of the times I remember, so when I was with the Foo Fighters, um, we uh, we were touring, and then it was time for a weenie roast, which is like all the bands, they fucking play for 45 minutes or whatever, and then it's rotating stage and fucking. And I remember like the Foos were on a fucking, I think this is In Your Honor, and Deftones were doing their thing, and they were killing it. And no, this might have been, I think it was maybe the tour before that. And so I remember we did, we were all together. And so I went over, Deftones, they're like, oh, what's up? And hanging out, dude, whatever. They're like, yeah, so you're with the Foos? I was like, yeah. They're like, fuck yeah, dude. And then we just started hanging. And I just remember like there was talk if they were going to, how they were going to close the show or whatever. And I remember like somehow I remember it was supposed to be, I think it was Change or Minerva. And then all of a sudden it's Bloody Kate. And they just fucking right before the Foo. So it's like so it's like, God help me, God help me. And they're just fucking, they stop and boom, turntable starts. And then it's the Foos. And I was like, yo, you guys kind of gave it to the Foos on that last one. Homie. Like, let's just keep it one thou wow. Like, you guys are G's for that.
We just gonna jump into Everlong right now, dog. We can't do that.
Yeah, like
dude, that's at the end of the show. We can't do that yet,
dude. Even them starting with All My Life, it was just like, nah, homie. Like, but did you just hear what came off that? Like right before you guys came, I even told Dave, I was like, homie, did you see I go, I know you heard the Deftones before you went on. He was like, yeah. I go, man, they crushed it. He was like, yeah, they sound cool. And Dave was always like, yeah, they sound fucking good. Like Dave has always been a Deftones fan, man. Like I remember, like when I played him the Team Sleep stuff, he really loved Foreign Flag, and he was like, dude, and you did this other one. And I was like, yeah, that was rad too. Like he always was like, damn, dude, I love that. He loved Deftones and Korn. He always like, and when we would be on tour, and he would be like asking me questions about Korn days or Deftones, he's like, dude, I love those bands, man. I fucking love those bands. Like right on.
Dude, that rules. Like, I mean, I'm sure you get asked plenty of times for a Dave Grohl story.
Yeah.
You just toss. I've had one Dave Grohl story told on this podcast. A buddy of mine, Joe, was drinking with Dave backstage at a show. His buds were in another band, and then they started comparing pictures of their kids or sharing pictures of their kids together.
Right.
That's the first Dave Grohl story that's been on this podcast. Hearing Dave Grohl loves Deftones, or that Dave Grohl even checked Team Sleep, is pretty fucking cool.
Well, the way he checked Team Sleep is I had my rock show on Power 106. So when Chino gave me that song to start playing before anyone else, like Dave came up to hang. He would, whenever he could, he would come hang out. And so at the end, like he would come and watch me DJ and just kind of talk on the air with us. And at the end of that show, he was like, yo, that new Chino shit you played? He's all, that new Chino shit you played is fucking good. He's all, fuck, that's good. And I was like, hell, he goes, dude, tell him I think that's the shit. I was like, will do.
Look, man, C- is an A+ in my book. Thank you, Mr. Rivas, for sharing your time and your stories with me, and for confirming what I always knew in my heart to be true, that Dave Grohl is a Deftones fan. C-, a top-notch gentleman. And I also want to throw a shout-out to Stephen Golden for vouching for me and encouraging C- to talk to me. I appreciate you, dog. My name is Woody. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter if you want to talk about this episode or tell me your favorite Deftones story. I'm at Woodbruh, WOODBRUH. Hit me up. Thank you for listening to Deftones, and thank you for listening to Change in the House of Pods.